In today's video, we will talk about constructors. So, what are constructors? So, before we begin, let's create a simple scanner object. So, we have already created a scanner object. So, this is scanner object. So, now I'm basically creating a scanner object, and I have to import this as well. So now I have called a scanner method, but notice one thing. So this is the class name and this is the input object name and this is the new method, and after that I have a class name and plus parentheses. So when are parentheses used? So parentheses are used whenever you are calling any type of method, right? So this might cause you to think why these parentheses are used here. What does it mean? So, as you know, it is just like what you know before. So, for example, suppose you have a sum method. Whenever you want to call it, you will put sum and you will put parentheses, right? And you will pass any parameters if required. So, this is method is called constructor. Constructor is a special type of method, and it is called whenever an object is created. So as soon as you create this object, this method is called by default, and it takes a parameter which is system.in. It can take other parameters as well. But this was the recap part. Let's create. This is our student class which you have seen in the previous videos, and now we are gonna create an object of the scanner class, right? Scanner import. Oh, sorry. Student s1 is equal to new student. Notice here that while creating this, we are again using these parentheses, but which means the method is being called, right? So, but here in this our class, we see is no such method. So if there is no constructor in the class, then you can say that basically an object is created and no method is called, right? So if the constructor isn't present, your class will work out just fine. But remember that in that case, no method will be called, right? And now let's create a constructor here. So to create a constructor, uh, you simply have to use public, since constructors are always public, as whenever you are creating an object, you will create an object in some other class, therefore it must be public so it can be accessed in other classes as well. And one more thing, that constructor name must be the same as the argument name, the class name, right? So I can't have a constructor like, I can't call it student with small s. It won't work. As you can see, it is not recognizing that. So to make a constructor, I must have it the same name as the class name. It should make sense, right? So now this is a constructor. For now, it takes no parameter, right? So in the constructor, you can add any type of code you want. For example, suppose let's see a problem first, right? So suppose I have created an object, and instead of entering data, right, I print the data directly, right? So now I am not entering the data of s1. S1 is created when I've created s1. The memory has been created for all these three variables, and then I haven't called the enter data function, right? Which means these values are empty. And then I'm calling this function, which is to print the data. And let's see what happens now. So as you can see, it has given some default value, right? And it is giving us the default value, right? But what if you want to give it a special value, right? So it is giving us name null, which is a null pointer. So, but in the constructor, we will give them default value. So here I will give that this the name is equal to, I'm gonna call it like none. So for now it means that it has no name. So, and I'm gonna set the GPA to 0, which means empty, or I can set it to -1, which means it hasn't been assigned yet, right? And similarly, I can set the registration number to -1, which means it hasn't been assigned yet. So these are the default values. So as soon as I create an object, these these will be the values of all these data members. I can add another other code as well. For example, simply print I can simply print that object created successfully, right? This is in the constructor is just like a normal function. You can add any code as you want. Also, one more thing, the return type of constructor is wide. As you can see, it won't allow us to have a return type. There is no return type of student. It doesn't return anything. So now let's remove all the code. So now we have only this one line of code. Here I have S1. So if I run the program, as you can see, this is getting printed. So why it is getting printed? Because it this text was part of the this constructor. So as soon as I create an object, all these statements are executed, which means my name, the name of S1 is known, the GP of S1 is -1, and the registration number of S1 is -1 as well. So if I print the data of S1, so now let's print the data of S1, right? So now as you can see that it is giving us the default values which we created in the constructor. So these are the values getting printed, right? So this is what a constructor is, and we can enter data. We can enter data, and instead of printing it directly, we can enter data. Now we will get the correct value, whichever we will enter, we will get our value. I'm gonna enter 1 and I'm gonna enter 2. So let's run our program now. Now we got our entered values which were inputted by now. So this was what I wanted to show you. And so just remember that constructor is called every time any object is created. For example, if suppose let's get rid of this piece of code and let's create another object called s2, and now let's see what happens. Now as you can see, it is getting printed twice. The reason is that this constructor is called for each object. So when I create s1 object, the constructor will call s1, and then I create s2 object, then the constructor will be called for s2. So constructor is called for each object no matter how many you create. So that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching.